Where were the Germans? Frankly, who cares? Thanks to Barry Davis for that line. The answer in 2019 is they were in the water off Enoshima. Great Britain's sailing team had an unlikely World Cup Series gold. This is Anything But Football. We are the unashamed Olympic and Paralympic podcast. And that was one tiny bit of bling being brought back to Blighty, that's not easy to say, by our Team GB and Para GB contenders in a huge week of test events and championships across the globe. World Championships in rowing and judo, and also on the agenda World Series sailing and triathlon events, and a British world champion on the streets of Romania. All that plus much more on Anything But Football. I'm Michael.
And I'm John. Gold and silver and bronze medals show the standard where our British athletes are at present. But as Laura Kenny told us on the last edition of the podcast, you have to qualify first. So it's been a huge week of World Championships, none more so than in rowing.
We had amazing championships and it's just finished now. Everyone's in really good spirits.
We hear from the women's four who booked their British spot in Tokyo. Plenty of other places have been secured for the Olympic and Paralympics, and we're just 327 days away from when the action starts.
Yeah, really looking forward to the Olympics and the Paralympics in Tokyo. Tokyo has been hosting a series of test events ahead of that, and we'll start with judo. And Tokyo hosted their World Championships. There was a brand new initiative as far as the judo was concerned, and that was blue and red mats. More judo in a moment, but we've also had a World Championships in rowing. That's been taking place in Austria, in Linz. And as far as the medal return is concerned for Great Britain, I don't think it was fantastic, but what I would say is, and just to reiterate what Laura Kenny told us last week, lots of boats qualifying for the Olympics and the Paralympics. I think we've totaled it up at around about 13.
13, yeah.
You know, and we're talking about medals on the first day of finals. There was a bronze medal won by Madeleine Arlott, so congratulations to her. There are a couple more bronze medals won in the men's four, the lightweight women's double as well on the second day of finals. And we saw a couple of Paralympic gold medals as well in the PR2 mixed double sculls. The Rio Paralympic champions, Lauren Rouse and Lawrence Whiteley, they won by a length, beating the 2018 world champions, the Netherlands. And the mixed cox four in the PR3 category as well. They had a huge 12-second victory, a world's best time, Paralympic qualification for them. And then on the final day of the finals at the World Championships at the rowing, a bronze for the men's 8. Unfortunately for the women, they were a little bit down the field.
Yeah, they finished down in 5th, but they do qualify for Tokyo, and as we've saying, a lot of these rowers have qualified. I think there are big question marks, Michael, not in the para. They sent 3 crews, 2 golds and 1 4th place, but I think the question marks probably coming in, certainly in the men's teams, and if you listen to the legends, Matthew Pinson and James Cracknell, they're saying, well, Jürgen Grobler, of course, the legendary coach who's remember, the men's 4, British men's 4, have won that Olympic title since 2000 when Redgrave went for that with that 5th gold, and we've won it since. Is the big question mark is who's going to be in the men's 4 who won a bronze and the men's 8 who won a bronze today. And it was interesting that the men's 8 were disappointed. They interviewed Mo Sabihi afterwards, and he said kind of a mixed reaction today. We came here to win. They beat the Germans, who were the world champions in the end, finishing ahead of Holland, but they beat them in Rotterdam a few weeks ago in the World Cup, and everyone was saying it was a fluke. And Mo Sabihi said today kind of proved it was a bit of a fluke because we didn't perform. And he also said in an interview as well that he wants to be in the men's 4 because that is his defending champion. He's one of the few defending champions from Rio who are still in the British rowing squad at the moment, and he says, I want to be in the men's 4. So it is a big question mark for Grobler. Who do you put the best men's 4 together and then everyone else goes in the 8, or do you think you can beat the Germans in the 8? And they've dominated since Rio.
Yeah, and judging by the performance and what we saw today, and the Germans in that 8 just led pretty much from start to finish. And, you know, listening to some of the television coverage, I know the commentators were doing their job. They were trying to hype it up. But for me, there was no other boat that was going to get past the Germans in that. And I think Jürgen Grobler will target the 4. That would be my prediction on that. What I would say is it's a risk because, you know, we've seen at these World Champions, New Zealand, for example, they really loaded their 8. They really set out to qualify for the Olympics. 5 of the 6 in the final went through. Who were the ones to miss out? New Zealand. Now, that's not to say they're not going to make the Olympics. They still have other opportunities. But, you know, they've potentially lost out elsewhere because they've put all their big guns in the 8.
And the issue is, of course, for Mo Sabihi to say, well, I want to be in the men's 4. That's fair enough. But actually, if you're Matt Rossiter, Ollie Cook, Rory Gibbs and Sholto Kanigi, you've won the European Championships this year in the men's 4. You've won a World Cup silver. You've won the men's bronze at the World Championships. You want to hold on to that seat for the men's 4 as well. You don't want anyone else coming in from the 8. So it's tough, and some tough decisions will have to be made in that. But Germany, absolutely the favourites for gold in Tokyo. So where do you put the best athletes? And some big decisions, as you rightly say. The women's 8, we mentioned Fiona Gammon, Zoe Lee, Jo Ratton, Hattie Taylor, Rowan McKellar, Rebecca Shotton, Karen Bennett, Holly Norton and Matilda Horn. I think they'll be slightly disappointed with a 5th place finish, but they are qualifying for Tokyo. And just to run through some other results as well, Vicky Thornley securing Great Britain's first Olympic women's single sculls place
since 2000,
since Sydney, which is
generation ago.
Unbelievable when you think of it. Unfortunately, she could only finish 4th in the final, with Ireland winning that one, and they've had an absolutely brilliant regatta. 3
golds for the Irish in Olympic classes. Sunita Pespuri winning ahead of Vicky Thornley, obviously, in that single sculls. And they, for me, are one of the stories at the moment, heading into, beyond, obviously, our focus on Team GB and Para GB on anything but footy. But when you start looking, at other stories around the world, we talked about Christian Coleman last week, obviously, who was anointed to succeed Usain Bolt in athletics, the American. You look at rowing and you think, well, the Irish are coming as far as the rowing is concerned.
The only thing I was thinking about that is it some ways to be better to be the team that's not quite at the peak, because the Germans, undefeated since Rio, you then lose in Rotterdam to GB and question marks come out. When you are the world champions in 2019, now everyone expects you to go and win Olympic gold.
Yeah, that's us, Glover and Stanning, because obviously they did it. They just dominated through an entire Olympic cycle and then went ahead and won it. It's what we talk about when we discuss British cycling quite a lot. It's about, these World Championships are important, but for the British rowing team, it's probably about next summer, and there will be improvements and there will be changes and there will be decisions to make.
The women's pair and 4 also booked their place at Tokyo with strong performances in the B finals. Sara Parfet, Emily Ford, Polly Swann and Holly Hill beat China and Canada in the final 500 metres. And we've been catching up with Sara, Emily, but first Polly for their reaction after racing.
Feels pretty great to qualify for the Olympics. I think it's quite a big relief after the week that we've had. There's quite a lot of pressure building up onto the final, but we did it and it feels pretty amazing. The sort of shape that I'm in is actually maybe a bit different to the rest of the team. So I've been studying for the last year and just come back into the team this year. So probably not on my top form and not my top game, but I've got the girls in our 4 certainly, and then all the girls in the team are in really tip-top shape. So I think the next 12 months are going to be really crucial to build on the successes of this World Championships and qualifying a number of boats for the Olympic Games, and I know that our chief coach Jürgen is going to have some pretty intense sessions and make sure he really pushes us to achieve what we want for the next year.
It's been a successful World Championships. We've qualified 10 boats, which is really cool. Means we've got lots of seats that we can all fight for to go to the Olympics next year. Especially in the sweep team, we did really well. We qualified 3 out of 3 boats, so both out 8, 4 and pair are going to go to the Olympics. So we're pretty proud of ourselves. The main thing to do this year was to qualify. Medals were a bonus, but I think we've really shown what we can do as a team, and we're really excited to build on this performance and see how many medals or what placings we can get at the Olympics. So yeah, really excited. Everyone's in really good spirits, and everyone's just looking forward to going forward into our break and then taking it into training. So yeah, it's been a really good fast competition. If you watch any of the racing, crews that are leading at the beginning aren't almost in contention at the end, so it's really definitely a big learning curve for all of us, and something that we're going to learn from and take into Tokyo hopefully. So yeah, thank you for watching everyone, and it seems like a lot of people have taken interest in rowing this week, so it's been pretty cool.
Emily Ford, Polly Swann and Sara Parfet, the women's 4 on their way to Tokyo. Sam Corty and Annie Withers needed a top 5 in the pair, and they finished 4th to book their spot in Tokyo. And John Collins and Graham Thomas in the double sculls also qualified for the Olympics as well. So as you say, Michael, we're in a good place. We've got enough boats going to Tokyo. Now some decisions need to be made, and boy oh boy, the hard work continues.
Yeah, let's stay on the water on anything but footy. We have still got judo news to come for you as well from Tokyo, and a British medal there for a Rio 2016 medalist, Sally Conway. But in sailing, Japan has been hosting the World Cup Series event there on the exact same water in Enoshima that will host the Tokyo 2020 regatta. And for the British, there were 3 medals in total. In the laser radial, Ali Young, 2-time Olympian, won a bronze medal in the same race. Hannah Snellgrove finished 7th. There was a
no wind again, though, was there?
I was just about to say there was a silver medal in the NACRA 17 class for Ben Saxton and Nikki Boniface, and a gold medal in the 49er class for Finn Sterrett and James Peters. But again, no wind, lack of wind an issue. So Ali Young didn't get the opportunity to improve on her bronze. She also finished 4th in the Olympic test event. And I have to say, though, that gold medal, James Peters and Finn Sterrett, are watching some of the coverage of that. They were 5th overall at the start of the day. They finished 2nd in the medal race, and as we started on the podcast, where were the Germans? They were in the water because they capsized. They really did throw it away. So I think, the rowing, the sailors, I think they're all going in the right direction. I think we have cause for some optimism from there.
And also, interestingly, with the NACRA 17, again, we talked about it in our first edition since the summer break last week, when Ben Saxton and Nikki Boniface missed out to John Gibson and Anna Burnett. It was the other way round this time, and these 2 British crews, only one of them can go for Britain in the NACRA 17, and Saxton and Boniface got it this time with a silver, with Gibson and Burnett down in 5th. So it's gonna, again, decisions have to be made, and boy, I'm glad I'm not the one doing it.
Yeah, and well done to Sally Conway in the Judo World Championships as well. She lost the semi-finals, the eventual gold medalist from France, but she's won a bronze medal at the World Championships. She won an Olympic bronze medal that you recall back in Rio. She's a European silver medalist as well. She's carried on the judoka to try and go back to Tokyo, where I'm sure judo is going to be one of the standout events. When you look at that venue in Tokyo where they were hosting that World Championship, it looks as though that's going to be one of the things, if you're lucky enough to be there, you probably want to go and see, in the same way you wanted to go and see maybe beach volleyball when you in Rio.
Did you?
I did, yeah. On the Copacabana. I think judo in Japan, in Tokyo, is going to be really, really good. As I said, they trialled these new blue and red mats. I'm not sure.
So how does that work?
I'm not really sure. I think it's just a change of colour scheme. It's like the equivalent of like the blue running track that has become kind of quite cool.
Although, have you seen the green one?
No.
In Madrid.
And a green running track in Madrid. Like the green swimming pool or the green diving pool in Madrid. I'm not sure that was a trial, though,
I don't think it was.
to be honest. So, I just think, making the more serious point, we've covered sort of 3 sports there that have had, big events in the last 7 days. Rowing, sailing and judo. And I think we've probably got the returns from all 3 that we would expect at this time.
I think maybe the British judo team might be slightly disappointed. You've got 14 people going out there, 14 competitors. Some disappointment, I would think, for the likes of Sarah Adlington, Natalie Powell, Ashley McKenzie. He lost it in the first round. And, Sally Conway lost to the eventual world champion. So that is, as you say, that's a brilliant performance. It's her first world championship medal. But I think when you've got 14 others, you want to see a few more fighting for bronze medal victories and finishing 4th. There were probably a few too more down the list. But 12 months to go, as you say.
Yeah, we're that part of the cycle. You're listening to Anything But Football. We are the official Olympic, or the unashamed Olympic and Paralympic podcast. We don't talk football on Anything But Footy, but we are now going to talk football.
It's a bit of an ongoing gag, really. I mean, we don't hate football either. We must say this, mustn't we? Because, I'm for my sins, a Norwich City fan, and I actually went back to the Olympic Stadium yesterday to watch West Ham demolish Norwich.
I went to see Brentford v Derby.
Well, there you go, you see. So we are, and Michael does commentary for various teams, so we are football fans, but we just feel that there are so many other podcasts that talk about football, so we want to talk about other things. But of course, the thing is, and again, so many people say to me, I didn't think they were going to Tokyo. Team GB, for the first time since London 2012, are sending a women's football team. They qualified. Phil Neville will be in charge of it for our sins, but talking of which, the Lionesses threw away a 2-0 lead against Belgium to draw 3-3. They play Norway next. And it's interesting that the FA of Wales chief, Jonathan Ford, has also said this week, look, it's up to the Welsh players if they decide they want to go and play for Team GB. Obviously, Team GB will want Scots, Northern Irish, Welsh and English players involved, and Phil Neville has said that as well. He wants to have some of the other nationalities within the UK in that Team GB team. But I don't think it really helps if the Welsh FA don't really support it. They're just going to go, well, it's up to them if they want to go or not. But I think they should. And with, you've got the Tokyo Olympics next year, you've got the Euro 2021 being held in this country, in England. Women's football has the chance, after what they did at the World Cup, to really move forward in the next few years.
And I think an Olympic medal would be absolutely huge for England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. It would be amazing. And I'll tell you someone else, a name that I want to just sort of put out there as one of my ones to watch, if you like, for 12 months to go to the next Olympics. Annie Last, mountain bike. And they've been hosting their World Championships in the last few days as well. Grant Ferguson finished 38th in the men's elite race. But Annie Last, a Sheffield racer, she was 8th in London in 2012. She won a gold medal on the Gold Coast in Australia in 2018. She finished 6th. And I think she's one in the same way that we kind of pinpointed, for example, Sophie Hitchen in the hammer as one that might come through and be a name that maybe surprises a few people. I'd like to put Annie Last out there in mountain biking, just to show that I think British cycling, the dominance on the track's been fantastic, we know about, but they are going to start, I think, now to target medals in things like BMX and mountain biking as well.
It's a good call. If you think we're not talking about a sport that we should be, at Anything But F on Twitter, or message us on Insta and Facebook. You can email at anythingbutfooty@gmail.com. And if you like the podcast, please tell people about it, share it, like it, rate us on iTunes and Spotify. It would really help if you could do that for us and let people know that we are here and we're doing this. And talking of success, we mentioned in our Tokyo 2020 preview that Great Britain has dominated the triathlon in the Olympics, and hopefully the para-triathlon as well moving forward. And it was the World Triathlon Series Grand Final in Lausanne this weekend, and we know that the women's team is going to be really strong for Team GB. Just to get in the team for Tokyo is going to be hard. And congratulations to Jess Learmonth with a silver medal, and Georgia Taylor Brown. Not Taylor Bronze, but she did win a bronze.
I've written it down as Taylor Bronze.
It could be her. She won't want that as her nickname, to be fair. Taylor Brown.
Taylor Gold
yes,
would be better.
That would be better. But a silver and bronze for those two. Congratulations to them. And they get to keep it this time as well, which, of course, in the summer they were disqualified for crossing the line together, which we'll talk about in a moment. Sophie Caldwell, 13th. Vicky Holland, 18th. Beth Potter, 28th. Unfortunately, Non-Stanford didn't finish. Well on to the men as well. Johnny Brownlee, 8th. Alex Yee, 13th. There's a lot of work to do for the men's triathlon. And we talked about the para-triathlon as well. David Ellis with a silver at the Worlds as well. So again, some strong performances a year out.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously that disqualification in Tokyo with Georgia Taylor, brown, and gold Learmonth, Jess Learmonth, silver Learmonth, whatever we're going to call her. Yeah, the serious point there is they chose to cross the line together, and that is in breach of the rules. The rule states athletes must not finish in a contrived tie situation where no effort to separate the finish times has been made. And you think back to the women's triathlon in Rio, for example. You had Non-Stanford and Vicky Holland, housemates in Leeds, battling away for a bronze medal. It would have made a mockery of the competition had they made a decision on the Copacabana to cross that line together, wouldn't it?
And when the Brownlees, when Alistair helped Johnny across the line, didn't he push Johnny?
He threw him across, so
it wasn't
break the rule.
Yeah, so it wasn't the same.
Yeah, they didn't cross the line, if you like, holding hands or together. It's interesting when you cover World Triathlon Series. It's a little bit of a bizarre one often, because the winner will know that they've won maybe 150 metres from the line, and they get into that, for example in Leeds, blue carpeted area in front of the grandstands, and they will stop and they will grab a flag and they will acknowledge the grandstands and they will walk across the line. It's something which, when I first started covering triathlon, you thought they might just go hell for leather for the line, but they don't. They often have the opportunity, because of the way the race has unfolded, to soak up that applause and enjoy that moment. And I think obviously with Jess Learmonth and Georgia Taylor Brown sort of crossing the line together was clearly something that they made a decision on, but it is in breach of the rules. And although it's an individual sport, it's a team sport, and the Brownlees have said that so many times. The fact that they can work together because you've got 3 disciplines, you've got a cycling road race in there where you can be tactical. You can obviously be tactical in your 10k run as well. I think if the and I have sympathy for Jess Learmonth and Georgia Taylor-Brown, but I do think on this occasion the rule was held up for the right reasons, because I just don't think you can start letting stuff like that happen, because we could get to an Olympics where you start seeing teams sort of racing even more as a team than what is an individual event.
And to be fair, both Jess and Georgia, I think, came on social media quite quickly after and said, "We've learnt from that. We're not going to do that again." And to be honest, it was best to do it at the test event rather than wait for the Olympics. Yeah,
well, no one will forget that rule now. They certainly won't forget that rule now. Obviously, the Brownlees knew it as well. So that's just something I think the world governing bodies of triathlon, I think they made that decision. I think they got it right. Talking of kind of governing bodies and decisions that are going to be made, athletes have been warned over podium protests for Tokyo 2020. We obviously saw Duncan Scott at the World Swimming Championships refuse to share the podium with Sun Yang. He's the guy that's been in all sorts of bother.
Well, he didn't want his photo taken. Yeah. He did share the photo to give him a bit of... He took his medal, but then he's like, "I'm not having a photo with you,
and
mate."
He still got warned, didn't he? Because of what he did on the podium. He was clearly uncomfortable standing there, and then obviously, as you say, refused to sort of get up on the top step for the photo. They had a bit of a ding-dong. Everyone in the world of sport thinks that Sun Yang probably should be banned from swimming at the moment. People can't understand why he's still being allowed to swim, with various allegations of a tampering of samples and things. And Duncan Scott made his protest. At the Pan Am Games in the last few days, we've seen two Americans.
Which is the equivalent of the Commonwealth Games?
Yeah, or the European Games or something like that. We've seen 2 Americans, Gwen Berry raising her fist on the podium, a hammer thrower. We've seen a fencer take the knee. And it reminds you a little bit of 1968 and Mexico and the American sprinters, Tommy Smith and John Carlos. They had the gloved fist protest. Of course, they got sent home from the Games. And what the IOC and the governing bodies have done here is they, I think, basically sent out an advance warning saying they don't want those podium moments, those medal moments, to be politicised.
Comes very much, of course, because what's going on in America with the anti-Trump feeling. Yep. I mean, the NFL quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, did so in 2016, protesting against Trump, police brutality, racial injustice in the USA. And so you do wonder whether, they've kind of preemptively, as you say, come out and said this now just to get it in people's heads. And actually, it's the kind of thing that, as a coach, you might talk to your athlete about do you want to be remembered for certain things? But then it's also tough, because if you want to say something, is there no better place to say it once you've won an Olympic medal and you've got that,
literally a platform.
You've got that platform.
The Olympics is the most political, non-political organisation on planet Earth. It's an organisation that is desperate to be non-political, and we see real initiatives and moves to make it non-political. For example, North Koreans marching with South Koreans at opening ceremonies. We have refugee teams, so people that have been displaced by their homeland are able to come and compete. That shouldn't be a barrier against coming to compete at the Olympics. But then there are so many politics and so much politics going on behind everything, from the bidding process to the staging of a games to everything then that occurs. And the IOC are just desperate, aren't they, for their 17-day summer party not to be overshadowed by what they see, as I said, sort of politicised movements. And
it does relate to what we were talking about with the triathlon, that if you know the rules and all athletes have to sign
the charter,
an agreement not to make political, religious or racial remarks.
You can't do that thing they do in football where they pull the shirt up and there's a message underneath or whatever. If you do that in the Olympic Games, you're hooked.
But we're still talking about Tommy Smith, and
it's one of the most enduring Olympic images ever, isn't it? I mean, you go back through the images over time. Unfortunately, most of the most famous images over time from the Olympics are probably not sport. They're Ben Johnson's bulging eyes, they're the massacre in Munich in 1972 and Black September, and they are Tommy Smith and John Carlos, aren't they?
Will Team GB, do you think, take the lead from America? Brexit is an ongoing issue, whether you're in or out. But it's not. I have a horrible feeling we'll still be talking about it in a year's time when Tokyo is going. Do you think that they will have to say the same thing along what America have done, reminding the British athletes of their responsibilities, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the exact right phrase as well. Just remind athletes of their responsibilities. The successful athletes at the Olympic Games in this era of Instagram and Twitter and all the rest of it, and even that's clamped down on, and Tom Daley's got in trouble doing Instagram videos inside the Olympic Village. But, successful athletes, part of Team GB, who will come home, will have a platform if they choose to use that platform to promote something that they want to promote. They will have that opportunity. And as you say, I think Team GB, we know them to be real details people. They will have such a huge team working, ahead of this event on all aspects of it to make sure that absolutely, literally everything has been thought of. And I'm absolutely sure that when those athletes are collecting their kit and, they're signing up, they will be reminded of those responsibilities.
Talking of more success, ever heard of ultra running?
Well, yeah, I have actually. It's not something I've ever done, though.
I had to look at the standard definition for ultra running is anything more than a marathon, so more than 26.2 miles. But however, the shortest standard distance is considered for an ultra is 50 kilometres, so 31 miles. So congratulations to Alyson Dixon, who is the 50k world champion.
Wow.
She won that in Romania. I'm sure it wasn't cold in Romania either in the conditions at the moment, and she is the ultra running world champion. A great performance from her.
We'll talk para-athletics in a moment on Anything But Footy, the unashamed Olympic and Paralympic podcast. But well done to Great Britain, who've won a silver medal at the European Eventing Championships. Tina Cook, Oliver Townend, Kitty King, Piggy French and Pippa Funnell. They were silver medalists in the silver medal position overnight, and they clung on to that one. Germany winning the gold.
I can't imagine what it would be like to give birth. I can't imagine what it would be like to give birth and then run 4 months later.
Yeah.
Libby Clegg, double Rio 2016 champion in the 100 and 200 metres. She gave birth to her son Edward on April the 13th.
Wow.
And she's back in competition at the World Para Athletics Grand Prix in Paris. She finished second along with her guide Tom Summers in the T11 200 metre race. What a performance. And she admits she's got to get her speed back. I just think she's a superstar.
Absolutely. I don't want to be the person to patronise or go down that route by going, well done, you've had a baby. People have babies all the time and go back to their job and go back to work, and that's essentially what Libby
Sometimes
Clegg is
not
doing.
after 4 months, though.
But to go back 4 months into elite sport is something pretty special. 4 months after the birth of my first child, and I didn't even give birth to the child, I think I probably still hadn't left the house. I probably still hadn't got the pushchair out the garage at that point. I think we were still just working our way from living room to cot.
Yeah, quite.
So yeah, to make that performance and to do that performance, massive congratulations to Libby Clegg.
And a couple of other new names maybe to look out for from Britain from a para-athletic point of view. Maria Lyle and Fabienne Andre. The wheelchair racer Andre won the 800 metres in 2:22.10, having already won the women's 100 metres. And Lyle dominated in the T35, 36, 100 metres as well. She followed up that victory with success in the Fridays in 200 metres as well. So great to see some new names coming through from the British para team, as well as 19-year-old European champion Thomas Young, who won the T37, 38, 100 metre final.
More Diamond League action this week, of course, in Zurich as well. Congratulations to Dina Asher-Smith. Dasher finished second in the 200 metres, season's best time for her. She was the British 100 metres champion last week with a new championship record.
Interesting on that one, the person who won it, who is
Mila Weibo.
Yeah, she can't compete in Doha,
right, in
the 200, because she's the 400. She's going for the 400, and she is the 400. That's her Olympic. She's Olympic champion from Rio in the 400. So Dasher was only beaten by someone who won't be in Doha.
Yeah, and I think Doha's going to be interesting. The team is going to be named shortly. We'll probably know quite a few of the people that will be in it because of the British Championships that we spoke about on the last episode of Anything But Footy. But there will be some other names coming in that team that will be selectors' choices, and we'll talk about that, of course, in great detail. And then you've got the Para World Championships in Dubai in November as well. And another thing to look out for at the moment in skateboarding, the Park World Championships are taking place in Sao Paulo. Starts the 9th of September. Now, the entire Great Britain team will compete. It's basically the first time the squad have come together since that funding was announced in April, which was part of UK Sports Aspiration Fund, because, of course, skateboarding is a new Olympic sport, so it hasn't got that kind of funding model that a lot of the other sports have. So there's a Olympic ranking points up for grabs. It's the last qualifying event of the season, but then the next season pretty much starts straight away.
It's a bit like the flat racing season. It starts the next day.
And the football season that starts before the other one's even ended, as far as I can work out. So Sam Beckett on his comeback from injury, Alex Holford, Jordan Thackeray, and the person everyone's talking about, Sky Brown, the youngster who's world ranked 9th, had a great 5th place finish last month in an international champions event. They will all be taking part in that event.
Yeah, good to see it's in Brazil as well.
Yeah, and and I think a lot of criticism about what's happened to the Olympic Park in Rio, and even when you were walking around it when you were there, you feared, didn't you, that once that particular circus had left, fingers crossed they could get the Paralympics on, because at times that looked as though that might not happen, but it did. They got away with it. You did wonder what would happen to that park, and you go to Athens. I've been to Greece on holiday this summer, and you watch some of the pictures or look at some of the pictures of their venues. It's amazing to think that within 15 years they've just become building sites.
Sad.
So it's good that Brazil are still, with all the issues, the wider issues in Brazil, still hosting major events.
Absolutely.
This is Anything But Footy, your unashamed Olympic and Paralympic podcast. So we've covered quite a lot today, and if we haven't covered your sport, we would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at AnythingButF. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can drop us an email as well. anythingbutfooty@gmail.com.